Hi, welcome to Digital Trust Talks, the show where we explore trends, challenges, and innovations in the future of digital trust. My name is Eric Mizell. I'm your host today. I'm the Field CTO and VP of Solution Engineering at Keyfactor. I am joined today by Kapil Gupta from ServiceNow, and we're going to talk a lot about industry trends around automating PKI. So, Kapil, would you introduce yourself and give me like a little background on your security expertise?
Thank you, Eric. Thank you for giving me an opportunity and inviting me to this talk. I am part of security engineering at ServiceNow. Been with ServiceNow for 5+ years, and as you can all see, my hairs are gray, and I turned those gray working in security for almost 25 years now. So I kind of breathe in, breathe out, drink, sleep, security, everything. It's the space which when I started was all about authentication, authorization, but now it's a field in itself. It's so vast and it's still growing, especially with the AI in last couple of years. I am pretty sure that will change it into the next level in next few years, and I feel security will be even more important with AI.
Perfectly said. I love the gray hair comment. So I don't know if AI is going to make the gray hairs go away, though. I think it might add some
No,
more.
yeah, maybe they will disappear.
Maybe we can ask AI to make our hair go back to normal state. Perfect. Thanks for the intro of yourself. I appreciate it. So we're going to talk a little bit about automating PKI. I think it's interesting where we're going, right? You said it perfectly. The landscape is changing constantly, and my wife says it best. The only constant is change. So, we did some surveys. We're going to talk a little bit about surveys. We're going to talk about trends and others, and let's just dig in, right? So we did a survey that said 8 of 10 organizations feel the pressure to automate certificates. Why do you think that is? Do you think it's from compliance? Is it a security risk, or do you think it's just the overload of work, like operational workload?
I will say why only 8 out of 10? It should be 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
With the 47-day certificate coming in 2029 and the PQC road is merging in the same intersection in 2029, 2030, I feel it should be all organizations. And with the shorter duration of certificates, if we are not doing automation, then we are signing ourselves for a failure. I am worried that in March 2029 it will be a different word. I probably will take a month off and not show up to work, and it's like going word is going to be different after March 2029.
Oh man, that's so perfectly said. I think you're right. Why is it not 10 out of 10? And from my seat, so I get to work with a lot of companies. We still see a lot of companies who see PKI as an afterthought. It's not important. Check, check, check. I got a CA and whatever. But to your point, there are two inflection points coming. And it's funny, I've done this talk at a couple of industry shows and one coming up where you've got these two inflection points of 47-day certs and PQC. And if you're not automating, there's going to be an issue. And the title of the talk is 2029 the day PKI breaks the internet, right? Like something's going to happen.
That's why I said I'm gonna go camping for a whole month in March 2029.
That's perfectly said. So you talked about 47-day certs. So this trend's coming. Think about it. We had to it used to be 2 years. So okay, I put a cert out. I worry about it every 2 years, and then it's now every year. And then of course every company is a software company, so we no longer have one app or two apps. We have hundreds, even thousands. And now you're telling me I have to renew my cert every 47 days, which is almost it's like once a month. So I went from once every 2 years to once a year to every month. That's like, for some companies, that might be 100 certs a month. Like, what do you think that's going to be like coping with that scale? And what's the risk if they don't?
I will break down that thing into two parts. One,
Okay.
generation, renewal, or issuance of a certificate. And the second is once a team gets the certificate, how are they gonna do the automation for the change management process, the rollout of the process, validation of the certificate, and in case needed, a rollback. So it's not just issuance of a certificate,
Mm-hmm.
also the actual end-to-end, keeping the
Mm-hmm.
life cycle and compliance and regulations and everything else in the small or large organization. So I am myself driving in a lot of efforts on this topic, and there is not a single day in my work life when I do not have a conversation about certificates. If I get paid about for the number of times I say a word certificate, I'm pretty sure in next 3 years I will be a millionaire, and I can retire before 2029 itself and not worry about the thing. So yes, automation has to be the key for each and everything, including the domain validation aspect of
Mm-hmm.
the public CAs, because that is also reducing with time. And
Yeah.
in
10
March
days.
2020, exactly, right? So it's not just the issuance of the certificates. I think we have to look at the holistic picture of everything related to the uh, DNS validation before the cert is issued, how the automation is going to request for the certificate, how the certificate is going to be generated, and if there are checks and balances in place needs to happen. Like if automation is generating a certificate from public CA, I want to make sure that automation is not compromised to generate thousands and thousands of certificates when it just needed to generate one, right? Once the certificate is issued, how the team is doing the validation of the content or the CSRs and everything. CSR is before the issue, but after that, whether the certificate is legit and all that thing, then as I said earlier, rolling out the certificates, making sure team follow the proper change management process, have a backup plan in place in case something goes south.
Mm-hmm. So, can you make a bold prediction? Do you expect to see some websites out in 2029? I'm quite certain we're going to see a lot more outages for a period of time as people play catch up that didn't get prepared. What do you think?
I will try my best to not have any outages in my company if I'm still working at ServiceNow by that time. Uh, and
But
I
you know what's going to
hope
happen elsewhere.
that's why I am very
Taking the month
bullish
off.
about going to camping, not even online.
Oh, that's awesome. So there's gaps, right? So, we've got this, we need to start getting more automation in place, but what about visibility? I think it's what's interesting is that, our survey says that 65 or 50% of people know, or companies know that what it looks like. Like we have some discovery. But what do you think the risk is of the unknown? Like flying blind without full inventory seems like a problem. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a bigger problem to solve. I think discovery is the beginning aspect of it. If you don't know what you have to renew, how will we renew it? If you don't know which
Yeah.
teams to reach out to, how will you force them to build the automations? I think to all automation we talked about in last couple of minutes has to start with a discovery. If I don't know what I need to safeguard on, how will I know what number of locks I need to buy or how many number of gates I need to fill in or bridge the gaps there? So discovery is a very, very essential. I would say discovery is the heart of this whole thing. Automation is the brain, but discovery is the heart. If the heart is not functioning, brain will die.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. In my experience, what I've seen is, certs for an application are typically in more than one location. So they're at the app server layer, but they're also at a load balancer layer. And if you don't know and you place it on half of it, well, that's half the story, and I've got an outage. So you've got to have that visibility into what's happening, or to your point, the brain will die, right? Hence why you're going camping. I think we've covered the camping thing clearly. we're gonna avoid the March 29. So, there's been issues, right? You get to see the news, and there's outages. There's, a lot of times when you see an issue or an outage with a company, it takes a while for anyone to admit that it was a certificate, but they're out there, and it happens a lot. But I don't know if people fully appreciate the risk, right? And it feels like they're underestimating. I don't feel the sense of urgency. So, do you think that companies are underestimating the business impact of this shortened life cycle?
I think in order for this kind of program to be successful, the support has to come from all the way at a CEO level or CTO level, because it is something which is not bottom up. It has to be top down and bottom up both, because without a support from the executives, the teams will not get sufficient funding to build the automation. Teams will not get sufficient funding to deploy the tools and technology to aggregate the certificate inventory into the farm. And there has to be a plan B in place. If teams are not able to do the automation in a timely manner, what is the plan B? So I feel without leadership realizing the importance of PKI and the importance of certificates, it's gonna be a black day on March 15th or March of 2029. And I would say, I keep saying March 2029, I think we'll start seeing the effect in 2026 itself, when the duration drops from
It's 100.
398 days to 200 days. And then I am pretty sure the CAF forum has intentionally did it 200 days in 26, 100 days in 27, and then leave a gap of 2 years for 47 days. So people have enough time and support from leadership. If leadership support is not there right now, they will start getting that support in 2026. If they don't get the support in 2026, they'll probably get the support in 2027. And after 2027, if you don't get the support from leadership, it's probably a shop closed.
Yeah, it's interesting. I had this conversation internally the other day. Someone was asking, well, what's talk about operational risk. If you're not starting now and you're waiting, oh, we could take care of it in 2028. And then just getting automation, like automation isn't easy because you have so many different applications and so many different things to deal with. And if you're trying to wedge all that together at the last minute and your automation breaks and you haven't had time to burn it in, then your risk goes up there too. So your point is well taken of, exact level visibility, budget. That's always a critical thing. Maybe even people, because a lot of folks, it's an afterthought. But you actually probably need. Like, I'm a big fan of standards too, because if you let it go to the rest of the team, everyone's going to do it differently. Some will work well, some won't work. Some are a hodgepodge. You got credentials that need to be protected as I'm getting to keys and to endpoints. And what's the common practice? Like, so starting now, so you can sort that out, you have time. But if you wait till next year, now you're at a 200-day cert, and the next year you have a 100-day cert, and now you're really putting yourself into a risk zone.
Yeah, I agree. There has to be a standardization, there has to be a governance in place, and there has to be a consistency in place. When you are building the automation or aggregation or discovery of your certificates, if you don't follow the pattern, everybody will probably do their own ways, and those
Yes.
ways will not be scalable, especially when in 2020 8, 9, whenever we are ready, and start shifting the algorithms for certificates or going into dual algorithm certificates, keeping PQC in
Mm-hmm.
mind. If you don't have standardization in place, how will you consistently guide the teams to say, hey, we are moving from algorithm A to algorithm B or algorithm C? So governance, consistency, standard or design patterns is definitely a thing to be aware of.
Yeah, I like where your head's at, and it's again interesting. This feels so perfectly timed, the 47-day cert, preparing us for PQC. So if you can get good practice in place, that's sort of the next question is readiness for what's next, right? Which with 47 days coming now, and then PQC right behind it, and maybe even right at the same time, that level of maturity is what's important. And how do I get that level of maturity and practice in place now as I prepare for PQC, which is next? And you kind of touched on it with executive support, sponsorship, and the like, and then common practices. But any other thoughts around just how do you stay resilient? How do you get prepared for what's next?
One thing I am trying to do for ServiceNow in ServiceNow is not waiting till 2029. I
Right.
am preparing ourselves with the mindset that we should be ready to do full automation in 2027. If we are
Mm-hmm.
not running our whole thing with that mindset and starting to think, oh, 2029 is 4 year down or 3.5 year
Mm-hmm.
down the lane, let's leave for now and we'll worry about it in 2 years. No, I think we have to be very aggressive on this, because if we are not aggressive, then we will not have enough time to, you know, be ready when the real time comes in. So I'm generally a little aggressive person by nature on these things when reputation of an organization is at stake, or things like that.
Perfect. And I think again, as we touched on, this is a nice transition to getting ready for what's coming next, which is PQC. My hunch is many companies are going to just focus on the public search because that's where the 47-day rule is, and they're going to ignore the private side. Any advice that you'd give to someone now of, hey, you're doing it, should I do it for both? What's my plan look like? What do you think?
So what we are doing internally or trying to do is, as you said, right, we are also focusing first on public CA, and we are
Mhm.
going to learn from that and then implement the same for internal CA. Because the good thing is, at least for now, there is no mandate, no
Right.
enforcement of shorter duration certificates for internal CA. And also, it depends whether the internal PKI is used for automation driven certificates or manually issued certificates and things like that. Every company has their own needs, their own timelines, but I would at this time more focused on the public CA automation and capture the learning from that and try to build the automation for internal CA. And the way I am thinking, at least driving the automation within my company, is a set which says today it is 2 years, let's say tomorrow it can be 1 year, and we should be fully automated from not only issuance but deployment, validation, and rollback if need be.
Yep.
And also, we briefly chatted about the inventory in the beginning of the call. I think that inventory is important because during with that inventory we can keep funneling back to our leadership or executives level and say, hey, we have a good inventory, and because you funded us to build the inventory, here is the dashboard we are creating for you, which will tell you how many certificates are expiring in next week, next 2 weeks from now or 3 weeks from
Mm-hmm.
now. It's not anymore a month's game, it has to be a week's game, because
Right.
as we discussed, right, a cert itself is valid for a couple of weeks.
Right. No, that's perfect. Great thoughts. And I think it just kind of, shores up what we've been talking about, right? Like the pressure to get to automation should be everybody's, right? Like if you're not thinking now, that you've got a problem, right? And the problem is it leads to a scale problem too, because now instead of having once a year, we're 12 times a year times the number of certs you have, right? And
Exactly.
where's the staff to do this, right? Do I have the staff? Do I have the automation? Where are my gaps, right? If I don't know, if I have visibility, all these things kind of build up with two consequences, which means outages. And especially if it's a public facing outage, that's industry brand, that's recognition. I
Exactly.
can't use a site, I can't do something. And all of this fronts what's coming next, which is, PQC. And if I'm not ready to be agile in an automated way, I put myself at risk. So, hey, this was great. Fantastic conversation. Any final thoughts that you have, or anything thing you want to leave with the audience?
I think I would say automation, automation, automation.
You echoed exactly what I would say, right? And it's funny, I have this other expression is, the best time to start was yesterday. The next best time is today, right? Like you can't wait. You have to get started. So thank you for being here. I hope all of you that watched this session found it useful and realized the steps you need to take to move forward. For more of the details on the automation survey results, we're going to post our Digital Trust magazine in the comments so that you can grab it and see it. Thanks again, and we'll see you all next time.
Thank you very much.